The other day I was playing the Todd Howard Stealth Archer fantasy simulator, better known by its acronym Skyrim, when I discovered a yet learned secret that blew my mind. It all started when I realized there was an equip button next to a two-handed weapon. I honored the oath of the YOLO lifestyle I took and have maintained since year 11 and decided to press it. At first I had figured it was a glitch, classic Bethesda, am I right? Got him. Yo, what the fuck is actually going on? This is so dumb. Whoa, what the hell was that? Alright, Bethesda, like, actually fix your game, for real. But it was at this moment I realized maybe this was intentional. Maybe this was something more. Something so much more. Now, of course, I'd seen these items before, but I'd always figured they were like potions or scrolls. They didn't actually do anything. They were just in the game to sell so you can increase your score and win. And I'd heard the term two-handed weapon, but I always assumed that referred to the two hands it took to use a bow. I was onto something, and I knew I needed to do more research, so I hit up my favorite search engine, Bing.com, and googled Skyrim two-handed weapons. I spent hours, days, weeks finding any shred of evidence that the two-handed weapons were more than just bows. The more I looked in-game, the more hints, shreds of the trail I could find. But the more I looked online, the more it confirmed that this was Skyrim's greatest hidden secret. This is when I knew it was time for me to dive into the game and answer the question, can you beat Skyrim using only two-handed weapons? My rules are simple. I can only do damage with two-handed weapons, and anytime I use magic, which I 100% will, I have to use two hands to cast. And so I booted up the game. Was incredibly confused, remembered I downloaded an alternate start mod, downloaded a whole bunch more mods to make this playthrough of vanilla Skyrim 1.0 base game a real treat. Then I didn't play the game for 7 months. After conjuring the courage to come back and take on this challenge, I took a pleasant carriage ride through the woods and got to the character creation screen where I'd usually pick Khajiit. But I wanted to be frisky, so I decided to pick a race I'd never heard of. Orse. I gave him what I assumed was a standard Orse name, Terry Two Hands. Didn't die like a champion, called this dragon a nerd, and decided to join Red Team because I figured it didn't really matter. As we were fighting these two soldiers, I noticed one of them was using the coveted two hands to hold one weapon technique, or thither-a-what for short. I repossessed the weapon because the man had failed to repay his debts and Terry Two Hands had spent the last 9 years as a debt collector and wasn't going to forget his training now. And with this, I was in absolute awe. I was officially the first ever person to equip a two-handed weapon, and boy oh boy did it feel good. Red Team guy and I carried on. I then killed the torturer and no one seemed to mind. I practiced my lock picking because I wanted to leave my life of illegal debt collection for some greener pastures, and I needed to practice. Along the way, I found some heavy armoire, a gimmick skin released as part of Skyrim Season 3's money-grabbing battle pass. But after looking at the stats and doing the mental calculus, I figured if I was running at people and taking a lot of hits, wearing armor that protects me from hits might be a good decision. And so I became the first person to wear heavy armor, not as some sort of joke. Now, I'm not going to go through this game step by step, but it's safe to say I was a new man with two-handed weapons. I was Terry Two Hands, just mowing people down. The early game was a breeze. Everything was being absolutely blapped with my axe. Even the Draga Overlord stood no chance against the might of an orc with only one weapon that they are using two hands to wield. It was strong, too strong even. A new meta that would surely break both Skyrim speedrunning, but also the competitive Skyrim League. After some good old bashing people's skulls in and collecting their debts, it was time for Terry Two Hands to take it slow, relax, say hello to my fellow townsfolk. I even played a little ditty for the tavern goers and felt all warm inside. Back to the grind, and as always, I spent time at the enchanting table, did the old level up alchemy, then simultaneously level up pickpocket trick, which would be incredibly important if Terry Two Hands was going to move up in the world and become a thief. I also decided to do something I never do, join the Companions. Now, we all know that the Companions exist as a fake out quest line, one that's so dull and boring you instantly stop doing it and start exploring the actual fun parts of the game. But I saw their gimmick uniforms, I saw them holding the secret weapon style, and I thought, that could be me. I could become the first person to beat the Champions Guild quest line. There are even rumors online started by people who have trawled through the code that if you get deep enough through the quest line, you can become a werewolf. And with my initiation quest received and the guild thoroughly plundered, I would never return to the Companions again. What can I say? I gave it my best, and honestly, I'm a hero for even trying. Before embarking on the rest of the game, I would kill a dragon, which was crazy and apparently became something called a Dragonborn. What? A genuinely shocking turn of events. And with the Whiterun tutorial complete, I was feeling the burden, the overwhelming pressure of bringing forth my discoveries to the world. I simply couldn't continue, and so I'd push aside the project for over a year and a half. After reminding myself how important this project is to all of humanity, I returned and did the only thing a fledgling two-hander like me could do, headed straight to the Thieves Guild. Time had passed, Terry Two Hands had grown, and it was time to ditch my old life of debt collection. It was time to start anew, trade in my life of crime for a different life of crime. I would cruise through Brynjolf's test only to immediately have my expertise show themselves as too valuable, and I was right back into debt collection. God damn these chains, the big city was supposed to be a new leaf, not a leaf I already had. Anyway, Brynjolf foolishly asked me to collect the debts without killing anyone, but when you're asking Terry Two Hands to work, you're gonna get the classic two-step method. Step 1, kill the son of a bitch who doesn't know how to make their payments in reasonable installments. Step 2, acquiesce the debts off their body. Bonus step 3, rob their house as a reward for a job well done. Also, super randomly, after my first quick bop on the head, a town guard would instantly materialize, so they'd have to get their debts collected too. To honor their payment, I would wear their cloak, also making me a certified member of Riften Town. After some successful debt collection, I would become an official member of the guild, where I'd celebrate by emptying every chest available to me, including the super hard to lockpick chests. My journey to Master Thief was well underway. I'd also play a little number I'd been penciling up in my spare time and felt great when they actually appreciated my other interests. This would act as the start of my very successful rise through the ranks of the Thieves Guild. While I would occasionally attempt to sneak in through the nooks and crannies of places, my orcish footprints would make too much noise, and inevitably I'd have to go with full two-handed weapons smackdown. While I was rolling with the Thieves Guild, I would dress up my mage in Thieves Guild garb. One of us needed to look the part after all. I haven't mentioned this yet, but I recruited the local mage Martin to join my two-piece heavy metal a cappella group, and he'd been a valuable member of the group ever since. I would later join the fresh new fit club as I upgraded to a golden look to match all the gold I repossessed from those that corpsed themselves on my elvish hammer. Things were going great. I'd become a stealthing machine, I was rising through the ranks of the organization, and most importantly, I was raking in fat stacks. My new life as a pickpocket, breaker and enterer, all-around acquirer of goods and part-time acapellerer was going a treat. That is, until the ultimate obstacle stood in my way. After being betrayed by Mercer, you're required to break into his house. I stealthily got past the guard, but to get into the roof, you need to shoot the ramp down with a bow. I tried as I might to hit it with my hammer, which really seemed like it should have worked. Like, this 100% should be working. There's absolutely no good reason this didn't. I mean, I'm clearly hitting the mechanism. Compared to the arrow, which taps it and makes it drop, it's an absolute joke that repeatedly thwapping it with a hammer doesn't do the same. But alas, it did not, because this game, as we all know, is clearly designed purely for archers. All of a sudden, my dreams had been dashed. It turns out it's impossible to beat Skyrim using only two-handed weapons. A devastating realization. I was so ashamed that I'd let Martin down, I couldn't bear to look at him while he smiled so proudly in my Thief's Guild armor, knowing that I had failed him. So it was time for us to part ways. Permanently. Goodbye, my thievy prince. Your smooth synth percussion voice will be missed. I didn't kill him or anything, by the way. I just never saw him again. That'd be fucking crazy uncouth if I just whipped out my hammer and just killed him for no reason. Can you imagine? What the fuck? Why would I do that? Either way, my heart was broken. But the best way to recover from one breakup is to immediately, completely emotionally invest in a new person you just met. Someone who you'd create a quick mutual connection with through the tried and tested mechanism of money. Ahoy, ahoy, Douglas. Welcome to the band. With little direction in my life and missing Martin, I would try to become what I was without, and bounced over to the Mage's college. If the dream of Terry Two Hands Master Thief was dead, the new dream of Terry Two Hands Master Mage was alive. But there was a hitch immediately. To get into the Mage's college, you need to cast a spell. A destruction spell was clearly not an option, so I'd need to cast an alteration spell instead. But when I do, I use one hand like a goddamn fool, a simpleton, and this would not fly. Now, if I had the dual caster perk, I'd be able to cast with 2 hands freely with no concern, but my alteration was only at 15 and the perk is unlocked at level 20. So I'd head to Krigsguard, talk to the alteration mage for training, pump it to level 20, put a couple perks into the tree, then 2-hand cast my way into the college. A massive success. While here, I'd dabble in a few schools of magic. Restoration, which I'd already been using freely because I'm a bad boy who doesn't obey the rules, but much more importantly, conjuration. This is when I'd align myself with the spell Conjure Battle Axe. No more would I be using a regular metal hammer for damage, no. A wizard like myself was ready to be a pure magic 2-hand wielder. As a sign of my allegiance, I yeeted my old trusty faithful whacking stick off the tower in celebration of my magic-y future, which definitely wasn't a mistake and definitely wouldn't negatively impact me in the future. This is not foreshadowing, it was literally no issue at all. I immediately found a better 2-handed weapon in the first quest and would continue to find a bunch more better weapons. Not that I would use them, because I was committed to bound battle axe, and to fulfill my conversion from thief to mage, I'd adorned some cult robes and was ready to rock and roll. As cool as these new threads were, someone would carelessly leave around some archmage robes and I figured, hey, dress for the job you want, right? My new band member Douglas would prove a powerful companion, both because he was stuck behind the bars at one point but then managed to teleport his way through them, which was legitimately an impressive feat indeed, but also because his beautiful voice was hugely helping our heavy metal a cappella group get some real traction. Building off this, I figured I'd fill out the band a bit more by bringing into the mix Blaze, a fire atronach with a vibrant vibrato. As we progressed through the quests, people would come in and out of the band, a classic tale of any heavy metal a cappella group on the rise, really. Everyone knows it becomes a rotation of faces. Sometimes Douglas would summon a wolf, which would bring in a great dynamic. Sometimes we'd even become a nice 7-piece, mostly rounded out by 3 undead skeevers, which would fill out our tenor section. There'd be mage after mage who would come in for a single before blasting off to do their own thing. At one point, we filled out and became a 6-piece squad. Me, Douglas, my flame atronach, his wolf, some other dude, and his excellent harmonizer of a flame atronach, and boy, were we making waves.
Take a look to the sky just before you die. It's the last time you will.
Occasionally on my off days, I'd break out the lute and play for my magical friends, but the band didn't care much for that, and they shunned me for doing so. We were an a cappella group after all, and there was no place for instruments, which was a real shame, and soon I'd stop playing altogether. But we were on the rise, so, I'd put my efforts back into the group. With the band clicking and my thievy past still coming through clutch, we were making our way through the wizard's quest with absolute ease. The rise through the Mage's College was fast, fun, and filled with intense vocalizations. Until disaster struck once again. To progress through the quest line, you need to use destruction spells on this crystal thingy. And as we all know, Terry Two Hands simply could not. I was crushed. I told the college I couldn't, it was against my beliefs, and they told me they believed I wasn't Wizard College material. More devastatingly though, the band had a vote. After my failures to become an archmage and my flirtatiousness with the strings section, I was out of the group. The group I had started, the group I'd built from the ground up, the group I helped to secure our first record deal, had just kicked me out. It was horrible, a double tragedy, a gut punched followed by another gut punch. Ow! And then later, ow again. For the first time in a long time, I was alone. I walked the roads of Skyrim, lost, and in this moment I vowed to never sing heavy metal a cappella again. I ceremoniously stripped myself of my stolen robes, and really effectively and in a super cool way threw them off a cliff. I went into a store and bought just a regular outfit. It was time for some soul searching. No more thieving, no more magic, no more singing. I wandered aimlessly through woods, through towns, through mountains, until I finally landed on the place that could match my feelings. Solitude. As I walked through the streets of Solitude as a sad, lowly death machine on wheels, I heard the most beautiful sound. A lute. It brought me back, made me remember the good times where I was truly happiest through all my adventures. Occasionally on my off days, I'd break out the lute and play. I'd also play a little number I'd been penciling up in my spare time and felt great when they actually appreciated my other interests. I even played a little ditty for the tavern goers and felt all warm inside. Terry Two Hands had always wanted to use his two hands to make music, but the pressure of society of the world turned me on a different path. But now, at my lowest, what did I have to lose? It was time to embrace my dreams. It was time for Terry Two Hands to follow the music. Now, I haven't talked about two-handed weapons in a while, but I can assure you, I was a monster. While playing on master difficulty and wearing no armor, Terry Two Hands was able to use his powers of stealth and powers of arm strength to dismantle enemies. I mean, really blast through dungeons, and sure, it was effective, but was it satisfying? Yes, like incredibly so. But was it fun? Once again, like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was super fun. Okay, good, but was it helpful for the world? Was it making a positive impact? Also, kind of, yeah. Through the power of thwack, biff, baff, bosh, we managed to get the festival back on, and the people of Solitude roared as we watched the effigy of the Dragon King of Death burn. After having to leave the Thieves Guild in shame, after being kicked out of wizard school, after my own a cappella group democratically voted me out, after all my trials and tribulations, I was finally accepted by my peers. I'd finally put my two hands to something I was proud of. And with this, I had officially beat Skyrim using only two hands. I assume. I literally have no idea what the official end of the game is. Alright, what's going on here? On the roof of Skull Daffin Temple, the Dragonborn will face off against the Dragon Priest, whose staff is the key to Sovngarde, while Alduin is now hiding. Once the priest is defeated, his staff is used to open the portal and the Dragonborn heads through. Yeah, I mean, I've genuinely never heard of this before, and honestly, it sounds fake. So I'm gonna assume that's wrong. And in fact, I had beat Skyrim using only two hands. Terry Two Hands would go on to travel the world performing shows, sometimes alone, sometimes with fellow bards. While there were good gigs, yeah, there were some where people spoke through it the whole time, and some that had been seriously undersold. Overall though, things were great. Terry Two Hands eventually became renowned enough to perform for the odd Jarl. Was I the most famous bard? No, but it was more than just a living, it was a good life. Terry Two Hands had a purpose he was actually proud of, and he was happy. And in the end, that's what matters the most. And that's the video. I hope I was able to open your eyes to this hot new playstyle that you yourself can try out right now. And honestly, it was a great time and I'd suggest it. If you have none, 1, 2, or 3 hands, then subscribe to the channel for more content that is honestly not really like this at all, but I swear is good. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye.